Hello, and welcome in. Let's talk music. Specifically, this 15-year-old album over here, It's Alive by Buckethead. Now, if you don't know who Buckethead is, he's probably one of the most insane guitarists that are still alive and still putting out music today. He utilizes these insane techniques, with tapping being probably the most normal of them, utilizing a kill switch to create these really interesting noise solos is also in his bucket, no pun intended. At this point in his career, Buckethead has released nearly 500 albums, possibly 500 total, and about 300 or 400 of them are what are known as Pikes. If you see this little logo up in the corner of a Buckethead album, it means it's an edition of his Pike series. Each one sounds kind of different than the next, and it's just a way for him to kind of channel in on a specific creative idea he's going with at that time. I've only listened to the first 40 of these Pikes, around that at least, and I'm probably not going to cover them all. It'll probably be another few years before I can listen to all 500 or so that there currently are right now. My interpretation of what a Buckethead Pike is that you're going to the fictional amusement park Buckethead Land and you're looking over what rides there are and what games there are and which ones you want to go on. So in that case, I guess I'm reviewing the theme park's rides itself. But my whole point of this series is to give my viewers a chance to listen to some of these Pikes without getting overwhelmed on which one they should listen to. I know how overwhelming it can be to look at a music discography and see 500 albums. It makes you not want to listen to any of them. So without further ado, let's get back to the Pike at hand. Number one, It's Alive. And this album, it starts out the Pike series strong. It combines metal, funk, experimental electronic, amazing guitar solos, four of my favorite things about Buckethead's music. Fair warning, it is entirely instrumental, as a lot of Buckethead albums are, but I personally like that. So if you've ever been overwhelmed looking at which Pike you should listen to, then the saying of start at the beginning, it rings true here. Not only is this album overall amazing, it's a great introduction to what we will see on later Pikes from Buckethead, but on this one specifically, it is done really well and is actually one of my favorite works by Buckethead. Now, as is typical with the Buckethead release, we get some amazing heavy metal rhythm guitars, some awesome shredding solos. I believe the drums were done electronically rather than live drums, as a lot of Buckethead albums are. I believe some of the bass throughout the album was also electronic, of course, aside from when Buckethead is funking it up with some slap bass grooves. The album credits Dan Brewer Monty as one of the producers, as well as covering some bass. And then another producer credited is Albert. And if my Buckethead lore is correct, Albert is the fictional park of Buckethead Land, but turned into a giant robot. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the point of one of the songs on Buckethead Land 2, the album. Back to the album at hand, because that's what this video is supposed to be about. We start with the song LeBrontron, which instantly throws you into the metal aspect of the album with these hardcore strumming notes from the rhythm guitar syncopating with the kick drums. And this adds a nice heaviness to the song. I'm a big fan of when the rhythm guitar and the kick drum are related in the way that they're playing. And on this song, we get the big hit that kind of starts the measure out. Actually, in the previous measure on the offbeat in the fourth bar. I hope that made sense. Overall, just some nice rhythm guitar on this song with multiple different variations that Buckethead works with. And at some points, it sounds like he's actually just shredding for the rhythm guitar, where we just get a whole bunch of notes to serve as that main chord progression. And about 3 minutes into this 6.5 minute song, we get an amazing guitar solo. It's really short and sweet, but it is a Phenomenal guitar solo. What else would you expect from Buckethead? It literally makes me do a guitar face like I'm the one playing it, and there's no way I could utilize that technique to play a solo like that. After the guitar solo, we get to the second half of the song, which is carried by this nice, energetic swing groove with these intense triplet kicks that just can incite energy into anyone. There's even a portion toward the latter half of the song that makes me feel as though I'm about to march up a mountain with this great large army with spears and take out a giant dragon that's been attacking the townsfolk. Overall, this serves as a great energetic opener to the first Buckethead Pike. The next song, Tonka, starts with this really weird pulling guitar effect that just sounds like a portal pulsing with this ooh. And that immediately goes into this fast and chaotic strumming that almost sounds like he's doing these little micro hammer on notes. And about a minute 15 into the song, we get this weird transition where it feels like Buckethead is doing a chicken pickin' technique. We also get this really interesting solo, which I think Buckethead might be using his kill switch, but it gives it this tremolo effect where it's like overall, this is a rocking thrash metal song that reminds me of some of the classic thrash metal hits, but there's these weird effects and these weird noises and sounds that happen throughout the entire song. And then why not just throw a 15-minute tapping guitar solo over top these quadruple kick drums, it sounds like, that only lasts for about 15 seconds before one of the funkiest songs on the album. Barnyard Banties is one of those songs that fools you a little bit. It starts out with what sounds like it's going to be a funky bass line, but then it gets kind of interrupted by some power chords, and we get that duality for about 10 seconds, but then we get into some open note strumming, just open E chord strumming that's really intense and very reminiscent of thrash. And then we get a really funky bass line, which then gets interrupted by even more metal and fast paced strumming. And then we get interrupted by funk again, this time a bit more funky. We get these kind of dead note strums going on in both the ears, but we get like a really funky bass. Overall, this duality throughout the first half of the song works really well, and it doesn't feel jarring. It merges together perfectly. We also get a really interesting second half of the song where Buckethead is kind of utilizing his knowledge of his pedals at hand. He starts utilizing the kill switch to his guitar with this wimp, 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 which I've been singing in my spare time. I probably look like a tweaker, but oh well. Overall, I'm a huge fan of the second half of the song with these weird noises happening throughout and just creating this interesting atmosphere. And then we get to Crack the Sky, which is an epic speed metal song, and you know what that means. More fast-paced strumming with syncopated kick drums. This song kind of demonstrates Buckethead's more serene and beautiful side in certain portions where he takes the distortion off the guitar and just plays with his heart and emotion. It does provide a nice little break from the intense metal strumming. However, on the song, the metal strumming is very beautiful. Overall, the harmonious power chords just work beautifully in creating a lot of emotion surrounding the song, which then gets translated into one of my favorite guitar solos on the album. Not only is this guitar solo beautiful with these amazing bends that just create a whole nother dynamic of emotion, but it's also got a lot of speed to it with this fast-paced shredding, as well as a lot of interesting guitar technique with this fast-paced tapping. Toward the latter half of the song, we get a tempo switch from 4/4 to 6/8, and this portion of the song, I think, triumphs over the first portion. The song ends with this beautiful, repetitive guitar lick that just carries so much emotion to it. And then we get to the hatch, which, similar to Barnyard Banties in more ways than one, it starts out with this repetitive synth bass that feels really awkward at first. And this song overall has a lot of experimental drums with some funky bass lines, and heavy shredding guitars. Songs like this are what interest me so much in Buckethead because it feels like he had four separate ideas on where he wanted to take this song. So he just threw all of them into the song and created this almost a cacophony, but beautiful. The song bounces back and forth between metal and funk and experimental and even ambient and electronic at portions quicker than, I don't know, Usain Bolt. We even get some polyrhythmic portions where the drums are playing in 4/4, but the guitar is playing in more of a 3/4 or a 6/8. Overall, I just really love this weird electronic landscape that is created by the song. It feels like my brain is picking apart four different things at once. And typically, Buckethead's guitar playing is what stands out in a song, but on this one, I think that's not the case. I think it's actually the production behind the song. Up next is Brooding Peeps, which is one of the slower songs on the album, opening up with this eerie landscape that gets briefly interrupted by these hard guitar and drum hits, and that happens for about a minute or so before we get into this delay effect kind of rhythm guitar. We do get a couple beautiful guitar solos, which I think is supposed to be the focal point of this song. The simplicity in the background instrumental actually really allows for these guitar solos to shine. And whenever there isn't a guitar solo, his rhythm guitar is almost as if he's playing a very melodic kind of lick. And then we get to the last song on this album, Picking the Feathers, and my God, is it horrifying but amazing. It starts with these trip hop inspired drums and this eerie ambient guitar playing that almost reminded me a little bit of Linkin Park at first. But then forget about that sound because we go into one of the most effects ridden guitar solos on the album where Buckethead is just playing notes super fast and it sounds like a bumblebee stuttering in your ear almost. And this solo is really reminiscent of what we will see on the next Pike, which is one that I will be covering. But anyways, if you thought those solos were strange, we haven't even gotten to the hardcore rhythm section yet, where there's an acoustic guitar solo. Yeah, just throw the hardest metal riff you can at me and I'm gonna pick up an acoustic and play some acoustic guitar over it. All of the weird guitar solos at this point on the album with this insane technique in previous songs, and the thing that caught me most off guard was an acoustic guitar solo over hardcore metal strumming. But what surprises me more is how much I loved that. The electric guitar playing on this song is just so amazing with these weird little bumblebee stutter solos. I don't even know what to refer to them as. And then throwing not just one acoustic guitar solo, but multiple throughout this song is just such an interesting choice. Also, there's some sounds reminiscent of a Windows computer pop up. I'll play that audio in 3, 2, 1. And when I first heard it, I thought Buckethead might have just sampled that sound before I realized it's an acoustic guitar chord strum over top some of the most metal riffs I've heard. And then we close out Buckethead's first ever Pike with this beautiful, reverberated, almost haunting acoustic guitar strum. Something I really like about the Buckethead Pike series is how short the albums are. I don't always have enough time to listen to an album in full. So having a nice 30-minute commitment it's wonderful. And those are the reasons why I think you should listen to this album over here. It's Alive by Buckethead. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I plan to make this a regular series where I go over the Buckethead Pikes that I really like to recommend to you to go and listen to them yourself, or maybe even purchase the CDs or any physical media if you can find that physical media. I believe he has bucketheadlandpikes.com where you can look through his discography, specifically the discography of the Pikes, that is. So be sure to stay tuned for more videos. I have a few planned. I'm waiting on King Gizzard's new album to release. I'm waiting on the anniversary edition of 12 Golden Country Greats by Ween. But anyways, yeah, that's about all for me. I don't want this video to be longer than the Pike I just reviewed, so thanks for tuning in to Pyramidian signing out.